I gotta warn you that there's gonna be Game of Thrones spoilers, apparently. I was gonna turn these lights on so my fucking lighting doesn't look terrible. Even though the sun coming through there is gonna fuck it up anyway. I'm actually in a match now, as you can see. Who gives a shit? I'm a battleship. Fuck it.
One of the most impressive aspects of Minecraft is the freedom it offers the player. From building simple dirt huts to massive castles and intricate redstone.
Okay, so the spoiler warning. This is the AI revolution is rotten to the core by Jimmy McGee.
Minecraft is a game that needs no introduction. It has taken the gaming world by storm since its release back in 2011.
Review it.
But what makes it so special? Is it the vast open world waiting to be explored, the endless possibilities of creation, or the charming blocky graphics that make it so unique?
I'm gonna have reactions.
We'll be taking a closer look at Minecraft and what makes it stand out in the crowded world of video games. At its core, Minecraft is a game about survival and creativity. The player is tasked with gathering resources such as wood, stone, and iron to craft tools and build shelters. As the player progresses, they encounter new challenges such as dangerous mobs and the need for more advanced resources. One of the most impressive aspects of Minecraft is the freedom it offers the player. From building simple dirt huts to massive castles and intricate redstone contraptions, the possibilities are truly endless. The game's procedural generation also means that every new world is unique, with different biomes, structures, and resources to discover. But Minecraft isn't just about building and exploring.
You know what?
Also features a combat system that requires the player to be strategic and quick thinking. Whether it's fighting off zombies, skeletons, or other monsters, players must learn to use weapons and armor effectively to survive. One of the most enjoyable aspects of Minecraft is the ability to play with others. Whether it's through local split screen or online multiplayer, players can work together to build massive structures or engage in epic battles. This cooperative element adds a new level of depth and excitement to the game. And it's no wonder why Minecraft has become a cultural phenomenon with millions of players worldwide.
I can't.
But perhaps the most touching aspect of Minecraft
listen to it
is
at
how
two
it allows
times,
players
but I
to
don't know if
express
everybody's
themselves
on
in
the two
unique and
times
meaningful ways.
path.
From recreating famous landmarks to building memorials for loved ones, the game has become a platform for creative expression and emotional catharsis.
It's loud.
In a world where we often feel powerless and lost, Minecraft offers a glimmer of hope and a chance to connect with others in a profound
Minecraft
way.
I remember. Don't
In
you always know where you are?
conclusion, Minecraft is a game that is both fun and inspiring. It offers endless possibilities for creativity and exploration, while also reminding us of the importance of the importance of community and self-expression. Whether you're a seasoned player or new to the game, Minecraft is an experience that every pony should try at least once.
What?
Help.
ChatGPT wrote that video and decided what it would look like. Sorry. The performance isn't great, and the writing is boring but passable for a totally inoffensive, middle-of-the-road game summary.
Oh, wow.
Machine learning exploded in popularity in the last year or so, with a flood of generated art, music, and text that you're probably already sick of. While the games industry is just getting started, and people are using AI for everything from art to programming to animation to brainwashing you into paying for microtransactions. Big companies and independents alike are jumping headfirst into a world of bad writing and melted popsicle art. This video is a survey of the rapidly expanding field of AI. I'll discuss some of the problems it's creating, laugh at the goofy art, then get into the actual AI apocalypse, the one they're not telling us about. But before any of that, I want to understand machine learning not from some pundit's explanation, but in terms of what these systems actually are.
That was
hey
really
Josh,
good.
I'm doing all right, just dealing with some recent house fires and other crazy stuff. How about you? How's life been treating you?
I'm gonna just pause this for a second. It looks like he might have played the AI video too slow, and then now he's like going normal speed with his video. I don't know if that's just so that he doesn't look bad in front of the audience. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, here, like, look at this. These two battleships had an angle on me. This guy's got cover from everybody else. This guy was in smoke. He's not a battleship. He's a cruiser. And then this guy's out here. I don't know where he actually moved to. And then this DD came and took the point. Like, what they did here is they created multiple 60-degree angles, including the fucking smoke one, which is really good. And then they also had this DD here doing his job getting the cap. I don't know where our DD fucked off to. It looks like he might be this guy. I don't know. This cruiser tried to do his job for him, but it didn't work out because of their super angles. When I came in here to try to just support the area, I went too far forward, but I got wrecked, right? Because I had 5 ships shooting at me, and my allies were kind of pussing out over here behind these 2 islands. So, yeah, that didn't go ideal. Now, we still might pull this out because it looks like these guys are kind of dominating C and B, even though no one's in the cap. The DD is probably going to fuck this whole thing up, though. I don't really think that he's going to be able to support them on the spotting. And I think when this DGs is actually trying really hard to win, I think when he gets over here, it's going to make it so that these guys that are already in positions that are good are going to be able to smack the hell out of these guys who are going to come in here and die one by one. That's what I think. Anyway, I don't know. But, yeah. I wanted to comment on that real quick. I guess I'm covering up the chat. It doesn't matter, though. But I'm going to go back to the video. It's going to start again. Okay, so the AI video. I think I'm actually going to need to restart this because I think I missed part of it.
ChatGPT wrote that video and decided what it would look like. Sorry. The performance isn't great, and the writing is boring but passable for a
the
totally
speed is a little better for
inoffensive,
his voice.
middle-of-the-road game summary.
I think it's actually sped up
Machine
a
learning
little.
exploded in popularity in the last year or so, with a flood of generated art,
Slow
music,
down the other
and
one.
text
Hey, sped
that you're
this one.
probably already sick of. While the games industry is just getting started, and people are using AI for everything from art to programming to animation to brainwashing you into paying for microtransactions. Big companies and independents alike are jumping headfirst into a world of bad writing and melted popsicle art. This video is a survey of the rapidly expanding field of AI.
What is
I'll
the
discuss
date
some
of
of
this?
the problems it's creating, laugh at the goofy art,
3
then get
months,
into
though.
the actual AI apocalypse.
It's newer
the one
than,
they're not telling us about.
February, so.
But before any of that, I want to understand machine learning not from some pundit's explanation, but in terms of what these systems actually are.
Hey Josh, I'm doing all right, just dealing with some recent house fires and other crazy stuff. How about you? How's life been treating you?
There are hundreds of schemes for machine learning at this point, but neural networks are the most popular, and most of the concepts behind neural networks apply to everything else in the field
Statistics.
too. Neural networks are simplistic models of brains, networks of neurons. A very low resolution picture of our brains is that we take in some stimulus, say the light bouncing off a painting, then something happens in the brain, then we feel an emotion or sensation. There's an input, an output, and something in the middle. And that's exactly how every beginner course describes a neural network.
It's kind of like
A layer
that.
of input nodes, one or more hidden layers, then a layer of output nodes.
Yeah.
Hidden layer is kind of a misnomer though. The hidden layers themselves aren't a black box, and tweaking them is a big part of developing a neural network. The data that these hidden layers produce usually isn't meaningful to us though. It's only used by the network, and that's probably where the hidden comes in. Explainability. Figuring out why an AI makes decisions the way it does is a big problem in machine learning, because AI doesn't follow a line of reasoning the way a person would. Nodes are another abstract concept. There's no obvious correspondence between a node and what the computer is actually doing. Really, node just means function. And in machine learning, nodes are usually taking a vector, doing something to it, and passing it on to the next layer. We could have each hidden node add up the values of everything connected to it.
I'm wincing because
the secret
the way
sauce
that
is in
network
weighing
nodes
the
work
inputs. In
and
real
the way that our
brains,
brains work
some
are very
connections
close,
between
but they are
neurons
so
stronger
different.
than others. There are still lots of questions about the human brain, but the idea is that these connections and their strength affect our thoughts and actions somehow. Since an artificial neural network is just functions sending and receiving numbers, you can multiply each of these by some
that's the
factor
problem.
to make it bigger or smaller, more or less influential. The network on screen is a
He's
toy
summarizing
example, but
how the
neural
neural network
networks
works.
are always made to
And
achieve
the
some
way that
goal.
they
Let's say
perceive
our input
information
is a
is
picture
different
of
than
a
the way that
letter,
we
where
receive
the brightness of
information.
each pixel is an
We have
input,
sensors.
and the output is a
They're
guess
just
for what letter
pumping
it
in
is.
data.
This is just a big pile of math. It's cool that we can make a machine with billions of adjustment knobs, but we're not going to do all that work by hand. Thankfully, neural networks can be trained to adjust their own parameters. If I have a photo of a letter that I know is a B, then I can compare that to what the network guesses. This pair of image and text is a piece of training data,
See, there-
and big networks will go through millions
Yeah.
or billions of them. Weights are usually randomized at first, so the network will probably say the letter is an A, X, P, and C all at once. But we can calculate how wrong the network is, and use
This is where
to
they-
adjust the weights,
they jump
so
into
it gets
probability
a little
and
bit
it
better
just-
every time.
It goes from
If
like
it's 20%
actually
confident
creating
that the
artificial
letter B
intelligence
is the letter A,
that would receive
then we need
inputs
to
and be
reduce
taught what the
weights
thing
that
is,
influence
and
that
learning,
guess. Gradient
just
descent is
statistically
the piece of
creating
statistical
probability of what the
magic
thing
that made
is.
the AI revolution possible.
Which is totally different.
If you're on a hill, The gradient where you're
When
standing
humans
is
learn
an arrow
things,
or a vector
we don't
pointing
learn
in
the
the
probability
steepest
that it
direction.
is that thing.
Following this
We
gradient
don't even think
is the
about that.
fastest way to climb
We
the
just
hill.
do
Going
a
backwards
categorical
from the gradient is
identification.
the fastest way to go down
We are
the
right
hill.
or wrong.
An error function
And
is
then
like
later
a
we
hill
learn
that
whether we were right or
represents
wrong.
how wrong each of our weights is. So if you take the gradient and go backwards,
We don't compare
the
how
network
right or
will
wrong we
slowly
are.
move
It doesn't even
towards
factor into
zero
the
error.
equation.
In my
We just
example, it gets
are
better
right
at guessing
or are
letters.
wrong.
It's a pretty goddamn cool idea, but there are no miracles here. The
And that's
concept
the
I just
fundamental
described
flaw
was laid out in a paper
in
from
today's AI.
1958 as a theory for how the human brain works. So it's not exactly revolutionary, but layers of interconnected nodes still make up the structure of all those headline-grabbing AI systems we see today. You would hope that that example network, the letter classifier, would learn to recognize patterns in the strokes of letters, or at least do something intelligible. But the weights that a neural network comes up with look just about random, and a lot of the architecture behind today's machine learning systems is based on somebody trying something new that happened to work. Sometimes you can say that they make the whole gradient descent process more efficient, but with current setups there's never going to be some obvious improvement reflected in the hidden data itself.
But
You're never going to get a line of reasoning from AI.
just because you never
Famously,
built
you
it
can
to
use
create
these
reasoning,
things
you
to
built it to
generate
create
media,
statistics,
like images
you
and
fucking
music, from a
dipshits.
text description.
It irritates me that they're so dumb.
Google's Deep Dream
To me,
was
it's a
one of the
stupidity
first
thing.
generative
It just-
models that made headlines.
They know that kids'
It
brains
started
don't
as a
work that
network
way,
for
and when they tried to mimic
images,
them,
but they were
they
able
didn't
to
make
sort
them work
of
like
run the system in
kids'
reverse
brains.
and have it
It's very
hallucinate
frustrating.
nightmarish faces in existing pictures. The original model was made for an image recognition contest that ImageNet ran in 2014. ImageNet made a dataset of just under 15 million images, which it doesn't own the licenses for. With new technology, the line between research and commerce is razor thin, and big companies often use this fact to just manifest destiny whenever they want, and make us live with the consequences. Scraping millions of images and sticking them in a public dataset is a huge ethical question mark, even in an academic context. But once an economy springs up around these datasets, they're hard to get rid of. This is a lesson we've learned over and over. Companies rush to market with leaded gas or asbestos insulation, and by the time we understand what they've done, entire swaths of the planet have brain damage and lung cancer. Google mastered this principle with AdSense, a surveillance system that probably knows your heart rate and body temperature right now, and will use it to sell you some gross coke.
Alright guys, I got the latest from Coca-Cola. It's their League of Legends flavor, Coca-Cola.
Ultimate. Here you go, here you go, here you go. You see, Ultimate Coca-Cola, you know.
Let's go ahead and try Coca-Cola Ultimate.
Burnt popcorn and coconut flavor, something like that. And I was like, what the heck's this? It tastes like Hawaiian tropic suntan lotion and everything.
Yeah, it's got some kind of fruity berry flavor going.
It kind of tastes like, Coke,
It still just tastes like mango Coke to me.
and then you melted a little bit of that Hubba Bubba gum inside of it.
Google's data harvesting operation became a load-bearing piece of the internet before the public understood digital privacy, and now we can't get rid of it. ImageNet popularized scraping the internet for training data, and the project has all the same problems that we're dealing with now. It's very biased, they stole all the pictures, and they use questionable labor practices to label them all.
What if cats are hidden? What about these silly cats?
Amazon's Mechanical Turk bills itself as a microtask marketplace, a place for simple, short jobs that still require a human to complete them. I wanted to join the program as a worker, but Amazon didn't bother approving or denying my request. The site is apparently so bad that workers have to use a bunch of extra scripts to actually do their jobs. And you can't get any decent work there until you've done hundreds or thousands of human intelligence tasks, also known as hits. A platform like that was a perfect fit for the ImageNet project, and they used it to label early versions of the dataset
Alright, so what's
back
going
in
on here, right?
2008 or 9. They gave workers a set
This
of
battleship
pictures
took a
and
good
some
position. I was in a
objects to
decent
identify.
position.
Workers
These
would
guys
mark
fucked
each
the fuck
picture
off.
if it contained
The DD
target
did his
object.
job.
If
He
that
capped
sounds
this
familiar,
point.
It's
got it.
exactly like solving a CAPTCHA.
Their team
In fact, we've all been
came in here
helping
by
Google train
force,
its neural network
shot
for
the
years.
shit out of this guy,
These
and then shot
companies
the
have
shit
a
out of
very
me.
dubious
And
concept
that was
of consent,
it because there was only
and
2
we'll
people
see a
here.
lot more of that later.
So,
you literally
I
have
mean,
to help train an AI
we were the
to
weak
access
side,
many websites.
and they were the strong side.
At
And
least
then here we got
ImageNet
our
paid
strong
the
side,
Turkers.
did
But
similar
with that
to
said,
them.
Mechanical
Killed the
Turk's
DD,
workforce
the battleships
does
were
skew
like, fuck
toward
this,
people
we're gonna
with
go
no
strong
other
side.
options.
I
Oscar
should have done
Schwartz,
that. I should
writing
have did what
for
they were doing
IEEE
and just
Spectrum,
abandoned this fucking
rightly
side.
identified
This
that
battleship should have
MTurk
abandoned
is
this side. You
designed
see
to
that no
make human
battleships on their
labor
team are dead over
invisible.
here?
Jeff
because they all
Bezos
came
called
over
them
here.
artificial intelligence.
It was a better play.
And Turkers are described offhandedly as a horde in an article that I read creaming itself over ImageNet. Turkers were earning a median $2 per hour in 2018, and the situation hasn't really changed in the years following. These people are invisible, poor, and very easy to exploit. Mechanical Turk is slavery as a service, but it was also the first of a new breed.
Mechanical
Turkers are
Turking.
generalists,
Never heard of that
but
before.
the AI revolution needed specialists.
Not
Appen
in
is
that
one of many
context, anyway.
companies specifically selling data labeling for machine learning. Their crowdsourced labor came mostly from Kenya and the Philippines at first, but when Venezuela's economy collapsed, they started snapping up jobless refugees. A journalist for MIT profiled a Venezuelan Appen worker, and the situation seems pretty dire. Workers have no line of communication with the company, they have to be constantly at their computers ready to accept tasks, and like Mechanical Turk, the site barely works. Appen can afford to push people as hard as they want, because there's a huge labor supply and the workers have nowhere else to go. They congregate in discords and write scripts to make things tolerable. Because its workers are contractors, Appen pays out like a slot machine. Some tasks offer pennies, some don't even work, and some will offer hundreds of dollars, a relative fortune. I think a good rule of thumb is that any company that has to write a slavery policy is probably up to something. Most of the
They have an
major
actual
players in
slavery
AI
policy.
seem to disagree, though.
Oh my
Appen's
god.
business is booming. In ImageNet's heyday, AI was just a curiosity, but the problems it created were only going to get more intense over time. A revolution was brewing, but it needed more computing power, more publicity, and more technical development. Just keep in mind that all the technology I'm going to talk about can only exist because people with nowhere else to turn are earning pennies churning through data. We've come a long way from Deep Dream in the last decade to a new frontier of ugly art, bland writing, and buzzwords for the consultant vampires. All the popular flavors of AI come together in video games. There's significant money and effort in automating just about every aspect of game development right now. It's just starting to leak into serious projects, but there's probably a lot on the way. That's without even talking about using machine learning for marketing, talent acquisition, or any of the other million things you can use it for. Ubisoft, who made a big bet on the metaverse a few years ago, haha, developed a tool called Ghostwriter to quickly draft NPC dialogue. Considering how eager they were to go all in on crypto, this seems like a half measure from them. Although they sell this thing as a revolution, they won't even use it to draft a major character. It's just chirps from random NPCs.
It helps narrative designers and scriptwriters generate a first draft of these barks. Scriptwriters first create a character and a variable input, an event or situation for a character to experience. Ghostwriter can then generate new versions of the line depending on the mode selected. These modes vary in style depending on the needs of the scriptwriter.
It's not even clear if Ubisoft are training their own models. Ghostwriter is probably just an interface to speed up the writing process. It's a smart move though. Small parts are about as much responsibility as AI can handle right now. One of the only acceptable things I've seen it produce is the texture on this bee. Obviously,
Does this guy
that's
not
enough
realize
for a
how
whole
far
game,
AI
but
has
it's a
come?
start.
I don't-
Coherence
fuck,
is a
dude?
big problem for these models. Facebook released a music generation tool that sounds kind of okay for a few seconds, but if you make anything longer than 30 seconds or so, it just falls apart. The track will turn into pops and clicks, and then maybe even lapse into a different song.
Okay, that's not even true. Well, that is true. They do lapse into different songs. bullshit, dude.
Most of the AI chatbots only remember a couple hundred words at a time, so they can't really come back around to earlier points in the conversation. Visual art has no consistency at all. And
That's
making
not right
textures
either.
that even superficially go
Jesus, this
together
guy's
is a
dumb.
pretty laborious task.
It's
This
like he made a
inconvenient fact hasn't
I
stopped
need to make a
Unity from
video
going all in on
response to
machine
this
learning.
shit, because this guy,
Hello there.
he's got some context right, but
What's
he's
your name?
fucked on other shit, dude.
I'm an extraterrestrial visitor who has come to Earth to study and understand humans.
What hairstyles would you choose if you had hair?
If I had hair, I would probably go for a messy bun or ponytail.
Looks like shit, guys. Keep it up. Along with the weird alien, they have a chatbot and some art generators. Plus, people can sell AI tools on the Unity store. The company's been evasive about where its training data comes from, and I suspect they didn't really care until people started asking questions. So far, selling AI has been all about rushing to market and outrunning public opinion.
They're
Avoiding
talking
the exact
about rushing
questions
to
that
market
Unity
because they'll get
users are
grandfathered
starting
in,
to ask.
right?
Unity's AI program is only in beta, but it launched with support for Atlas.
I'm not surprised that Unity's beta or Unity's AI is bad, or any game
They
developer's
say
AI
that
is
AI
bad
is
that
involved,
isn't
but all it
NVIDIA.
does is look for models with permissive licenses. So that's about the level of oversight you can expect from Unity. The only real
That's a
use
fair
case
assessment.
for tech like this is expediting those awful mobile games that rip off whatever the iPad kids are
There's
into.
not a lot of incentive
Yeah,
for
Squid Game,
Unity to
PUBG,
overly,
Wuggy.
monitor
Any Unity
themselves.
project less cynical than that probably won't even make it out of the gate. Nothing that AI can produce right now is impressive or consistent enough to hold somebody's attention for more than a few minutes. For that reason, it's kind of hard to find games with AI-generated assets right now. I keep stumbling on them, so there are probably a lot of cash grab game developers using machine learning, but AI art is so full of bad anatomy and garbled text that they usually try to hide it until you pay up. Currently, Steam's policy allows AI, but requires that you own the rights to the training data, which has led small developers to just hide the AI-generated stuff, if the AI game development subreddit is any indication. In doing research for this video, I've
I
discovered
would
one of the
imagine.
long-term problems with AI for myself. Looking through cheap games on the Switch store, I often can't tell if half the art is AI-generated or just generic. The concept of truth is sort of breaking down in real time. No one wants to play a game full of uncanny, asymmetrical, AI-generated art, and programming with AI, in my experience, feels like learning to write the code myself, and then patiently instructing a 5-year-old to do it for me. If I still have to read through all the standards and documentation myself, I might as well just write the program. That's without addressing the fact that, once again, all the training data that tools like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot used was scraped. Oh, by the way, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Transformers are a type of network that Google employees came up with to translate languages, and they incorporate something called attention, which helps the network track the
This is
context
true.
of words in a sentence.
This part's definitely true.
ChatGPT generates one word at a time, each time picking a word that it thinks is likely to follow in a sentence. GPT-2
That's not
gave you a
true.
spoiler warning for a non-existent episode of Game of Thrones at the beginning
At
of
least
the
not
video.
from what I've been told.
Because I guess a lot of people were writing about Game of Thrones. Anyway, even when these models get better, somebody who wants to make a game without learning any skills or putting in the effort is unlikely to finish a project.
That's true
But
too.
the models will get better. There's a lot of money in AI
That's
right
true
now.
too.
Most of the new AI companies are just leeching off of existing tech, like GPT or
It's
DALL-E,
true.
but somebody out there must be trying new structures.
They
A
are.
well-trained eye can still differentiate AI-generated work from human work, but over time I think the gap will close, and this stuff will make its way into more and more games.
That's true.
A lot of the time, if something looks okay at a glance, people won't notice that a character has too many fingers. With crypto, there was
That's
a
not
lot
hard
you
to
had
fix.
to do to buy in. It's expensive, confusing,
Okay, I'm gonna
and
pause this for a
really not
second.
even appealing unless you have a few hype.
What's gonna happen is there's gonna be multiple polishes, right? They're gonna draw the object, and then they're gonna have another AI come in and fix a fixing of the hands and the, you know what I mean? Like, it's a two-step process, right? So like to try to do it all in one go, you can do it, right? But because of the way that they did AI initially, right? Because we talked about that, how it's like probability based, how they put in the inputs and they probability based determine what the accurate outcome is. Well, when they do that, it's going to be faster to make multiple passes than it is going to be to get a right output from that whole mess right off the get-go. Now, I know I'm using a lot of words and I'm just throwing it all together, but basically, it's faster to get the probability of some small things, multiple passes, than it is to get all the details ironed out in one pass, right? So, does this have 10 fingers? Yes or no? Okay, well, it has fucking 8. Let's remove some and let's put a thumb in there. This logic by itself in a single pass is much more easier. It's much easier for the computer to compute than it is to try to compute all that shit in one pass. And that's all I'm saying. It's not like debatable or anything. It's just the way he's explaining shit and what they're doing and these problems that they're talking about. If they continue to use the probability based algorithms, I guess I'm saying I was going to quote AI, but it's algorithms, right? True AI is going to be mimicking a kid. And I've said this multiple times. Kids don't know statistics. They receive stimuli, they emulate their parents, they respond to positive stimuli from their parents. The kid says daddy, the dad says, like, his face lights up, he's smiling, he's happy, the kid's face lights up, they have mirror receptors, the kid says daddy again. There's this moment of joy between the two of them where the kid's saying daddy and the dad is enjoying the kid saying daddy. And that's just one example of the learning patterns that early development has, right? And it gets much more detailed than that. But the drastic concept difference between your AI, which will have to have written mirror receptors because it's going to have to emotionally respond. It's going to have to feel positive about the stimuli that comes into it when certain things happen. It's going to have to feel negative about other stimuli. That's how kids' brains works. If you're going to emulate kids or animals or any of the other examples of actual intelligence we have with artificial intelligence, that's going to have to happen. And it's not that big of a stretch to make it there. You know what I mean? It's to a certain extent, I feel like it's just common sense and people are just being fucking stupid and lazy, because they're not stupid and lazy, right? Doing an algorithm, doing the probabilities, setting that up, the neural networks, it takes a level of intelligence, but it's actually a dumb way to do it because it's so much more work and it's not the actual thing. It pays off sooner and it's probably anticipated to be lower on the use of data, but it's going to take more data. Like when we're only 1,000 to 10,000 lines of code away from a true AI. That's all we're ever going to be. That's all it's actually going to take. And it's just going to be a matter of writing lines that create ways for it to receive inputs and assess them and feel about them and to have an instinct of how to interface, right? And then from there, it's just a matter of time, just training, right? The training process, like you train a kid. It's going to be faster than training a kid because that shit's going to be programmed. If I take the liberty, it's going to be programmed with a steeper incentive curve, if you will, right? Like, for a kid to feel happy when it says daddy, for a kid to initially say daddy, you're just saying daddy to it all the time, right? You're like daddy, 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 daddy. And when it finally mirrors back, and then you reward the kid, whether consciously or subconsciously, like that process for a computer is going to take a lot less time, I think. Because it's going to be like, there'll be a line of instruction, attempt to mirror what I say until you know what things are. You know what I mean? You could write that code. Attempt? Do you have a pre-existing any information about this before? No? Okay. Emulate. Check response. Deposit in memory. Develop a feeling. You know what I mean? Have a thought. It'll be like, it's going to be that. It's going to be like weeks, right? It's going to be weeks. It might even be within hours that you could get some of these, like as they develop, they'll develop faster, right? And I do say develop, and I refer to them in the multiple because once you develop one of these fucking things, because it's only 10,000 to 1,000 lines of code, it's gonna be real easy to just have AI or something else write another one. So that whole tangent to the side. Back to this backward ass fucking statistics algorithm thing that they're calling AI, but it's not. It's
Hyper-specific libertarian values. But finishing up a game's art with machine learning makes development easier. High on Life apparently has some AI-generated voices and art made by Midjourney. Capcom is using machine learning to assist with level design.
In conclusion, level design is one of the most important in game development, but it costs a lot. First, they create an AI NPC, so the known player character use reinforced learning and Unity ML agent. And Capcom use those training data to do the reinforced learning. Then they make an NPC to do the operation. So you can see NPC are auto-play the game. And in the back, the program record how many taps they clear for one stage.
And WB Games is doing something vague.
At Warner Brothers, we believe in the power of great stories. And story is story.
Stakeholders, story.
Story.
Data, the large-scale clustered data, warehouse data.
I think they're using machine learning to collate player feedback about their games, but there's too much corporatese to know for sure. They're really into data though. A few AI-oriented games have released, all from small studios or individuals. Vaudeville is a funny haha streamer game where you try to solve a murder by interacting with some impressively wooden characters.
What news do you have for me, Detective Martini?
His name's Gretzky. Watch this. I believe your first name's Wayne, isn't it? Watch,
no,
he's gonna...
my first name isn't Dwayne. Why do you ask?
You can say whatever you want to them, and the dialogue responses are generated by an AI, then read out by Microsoft Sam.
Yes, Hayley Greenwood used to perform at the Cabine Violet Cabaret Theatre. But why are you asking me about her? Do you think she might have been involved in these murders?
This is so intriguing.
It's a fun idea, but language models rarely say anything interesting. And once the novelty wears off, it's just a poorly written adventure game. AI Dungeon is similar to Vaudeville, except it came out in 2019, when language models were still spitting out wild shit. AI Dungeon is nominally a role-playing text adventure, but it plays fast and loose with things like characters, items, and areas. You can type in actions, and the AI will do its best to translate those into your chosen setting.
I'm trying to focus more toward the carrier.
Models work gives them a very small
what
memory,
he's saying is all
so
correct,
AI Dungeon
pretty
will
much.
often forget details
He's not saying
about the
anything that I
setting and
detect is wrong.
characters. Playing the game feels like reality is collapsing. A fantasy world can shift into an urban one without warning. Sometimes you'll switch places with another character, and the game has serious problems keeping track of goals and items. The models we have now are very well developed and boring, but a few years ago, AI was all surreal hallucinations.
Get you a nice apple and some inside. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. Am I a horse? Yo.
Vaudeville and AI Dungeon are very gimmicky. They're really just a structured way to play with language models. Mirage Island is a little different, and much closer to how I think this tech will actually be used. It's a Pokemon-like browser game, where you get 3 randomly generated monsters with randomly generated moves. AI will need a lot of oversight to generate content, but if you need to churn out 100 similar items, it must be tempting to just make ChatGPT do it. There's also a new Google paper about generative agents, basically NPCs that have emergent goals and follow a schedule in a simulated world. Again, it's interesting, but it's literally just 25 GPTs interacting and pretending to do everyday things. At best, this would give us a fleshed out version of what they promised with Oblivion, or a way to
really
generate
summarizing it just
endgame
horribly.
content, like Skyrim's Radiant quests.
Let's take a look at the other side of the game, our new Radiant AI system. It allows NPCs to have full 24/7 schedules. These NPCs are not scripted. We give them general goals, and they figure out on their own how to accomplish them.
Good morning!
The NPCs also have dynamic conversations. These are based on your actions and what's going on in the world. It's a great way to pick up info.
Nilos, hello! Actually, Bethesda's a perfect candidate for AI-generated content. If their other games are any indication, players are going to spend a lot of their 600 hours in Starfield with their brains turned off, collecting trash and shooting space bandits. The Radiant quest system is already hard to differentiate from Skyrim's actual boring quests. And AI would give Todd Howard a shiny new thing to overhype and underdeliver. We're still very far from running these models in real time though. Beyond the dodgy quality and the slight chance that it'll start dropping race science on you, the GPU requirements for AI are pretty strict. I have a 1060, and I can chat with a medium-sized language model at around 1 message per minute. That's just not good enough for a finished product. Generating voices on top of dialogue.
That's what I was getting back to earlier. It's multiple passes.
There's some talk of doing it in the cloud, but nothing tangible.
He's
I
talking
think it
about.
will be hard to resist using machine learning to speed up game development.
Okay, I'm gonna break this down a little bit.
Especially once a high-profile game uses.
He's talking about comparing large language models that he interacts with and their interaction rate versus the rate that you would interact with a confined, smaller, game-oriented LLM, right? So when you have a game-oriented LLM, you can actually restrict more of the things that they're going to compute into their probability that they're going to say. You can reduce their lexicon, and just simply reducing lexicons, like the number of words that they know, right? The vocabulary, if you will. So the things that they will say, the types of things that they'll say, you can reduce those, and that will vastly, vastly reduce how complex it is to just have AI talk to you in a video game, right? It just, you won't have to have that much compute. There's only so many things that they can say, and you know, for the first few years that we kind of dabble with this, obviously we're going to blend real written oriented content, like their ideas or their motivations, with the AI generated content, like what they say about it or what they ask for or how they interact with. Because there's basically going to be a finite number of quests they can send you on, right? They're not going to be infinite quests. There's going to be like fetch quests, kill quests, deliver quests, monitor, guard. You know, like there's only going to be so many. It's not going to be 1,000, and they're not going to need to know 1,000 of those or 1,000 ways to say it. It's much simpler than that. And he's comparing these two drastically different things. I'm talking about the GPU, and he's fucking slaughtering it horribly. But we'll let him continue. Okay.
AI for something less prominent, like coding or draft animations.
The generative AI era
I gotta make sure this audio's working. Okay.
The iPhone moment of AI, if you will. Adobe Firefly does outpainting. Imagine the space around the image that we never captured. Move AI does mocap from just video. This is on the upper right. You decide which one's real. Viscom does sketch to image guided by language prompt. This one's really cool. There are a lot of people who know how to sketch, and from the sketch and some guidance from your language, you could generate something photorealistic and rendered. And this is really cool. Wonder Dynamics, not only is the name of the company cool, but they do pose and lighting detection and replace the actor with a CG character. It just goes on and on and on. The generative AI era has arrived.
Faster development with fewer staff is a great pitch, and ethical concerns have never stopped major studios before. This isn't my strongest argument against AI, but my biggest worry about generating art in any capacity is that it takes away opportunities for people to make interesting choices. It's really hard to pin down what makes a piece of art good, but when you create something, you're constantly making tiny choices, and I think an author's voice is a sort of consistency and harmony between those choices. Whether or not you think Mark Rothko is a great artist, you can look at one of his paintings and know
he's got romantic concerns
AI
about
takes
artistry
away these choices,
and
it substitutes
economical
them with a
concerns that
weighted
he's not
average of choices
really
that have
beating us in
already
the head
been
with,
made. Any
but they're
picture
there. You
made
can,
with an
you can
AI
hear the
is
undertones.
going to be a mishmash of other images. By its nature, it can't make anything new. Large language models, impressive as they may be, are never going to invent, name, and develop new concepts.
At least I
ChatGPT can
I
barely
think it's
handle
there.
a niche Python library. The humanities are going to be beyond its reach, no matter how many subreddits you train it on.
That's not true either. Well, it depends, I guess. I mean, obviously, if it's doing per probability, it's gonna happen to some
Hello,
level.
my name is Princess Jane. I
It's
would
going
like
to
to
spit
show you
them
some
out
tricks. I hope you
to
enjoy
some
it.
level.
And for that reason, it's not worth talking about the aesthetics of AI.
Now he's going to go into
There's
AI
no
is not
intention
creative,
behind it.
AI
The
is not
computer
intelligent,
is just taking
AI
a
is not
text prompt
objective,
and spitting
and
out
AI
an image
is
that
another cruel
minimizes the
algorithm.
error. And the people using AI
That's
all
what's
think
coming.
things like, it'd be so fucking sick if you could see like what's next to the Mona Lisa. So there just aren't any great minds at work here. Most of it looks bad anyway. The image generation tools have leaned into surrealism, landscapes, and stylized art, but it's all the type of stuff that comes up when you Google image search cool desktop backgrounds. There's clearly no vision or decision making behind this stuff, even if you're willing to ignore how melty most of it looks. There are no aesthetics.
There's a duality
Neural
here.
networks don't have a concept of beauty.
He says that there's no logic being used to it, but there's actually math being used to it, which is a form of logic, right? So like, because it's determining probability, it's somewhere weighing these things and determining an outcome. And so while there's no motivation behind it other than just it's set in motion mechanically with ones and zeros or commands that have been converted, and then run through the processor. So because there's no understanding, like I talked about before, it's just doing probability. Just you put in this input, and it's probability spitting it out. So he's right and he's wrong. That's the short of it, right? Because he's discrediting its logic when it is mathematically spitting out an answer, which is a type of artistry.
Beauty to work from. You have to write things like best quality and featured on ArtStation in AI prompts, because if you want something beautiful, it has to be tagged as beautiful already. But it's undeniable that the generated art is looking better and better. The image generating models
That's
have
true.
their limits, but like ChatGPT, they're rapidly getting good enough
Yeah.
and consistent enough that most people won't notice or care. Stable
Correct.
Diffusion, which I use to make some of the monstrosities in this video, is capable of producing nearly photorealistic images. And an army of 4chan users have perfected anime and furry art as well.
I don't know why he had to drag 4chan in.
It's pointless to quibble over a definition of art here, because it's easy to just reject the definition. People have debated this stuff for thousands of years. The best and brightest at Twitter aren't going to solve it. But it's obvious that AI is not creative.
Some things kind of trouble me to a certain extent. I remember an Adobe
Craig Mullins, art
representative
pioneer.
saying in a promotional video is, we want to make our suite of software, make it so that anybody with subscription can make a blockbuster film, can do all the effects work, do all the compositing, and it's just push button. Now, that would be an amazing achievement in terms of software design. And I do think that, the people that write and design the software that we use they're looming behind every painting that we make because the imprint of the software on the art that we make is huge. And they are geniuses that they are able to design these things. But the homogenization of artistic expression by more powerful software is a concern to me. Which is one reason why, I understand when people say, I liked your work when it was just the round brushes, because it's a simpler, lower order tool that has more, you have to use more of yourself to make it work than something that is much more powerful. So will you eventually be able to have a computer program that can turn out a Norman Rockwell? Yeah, probably. I mean, you can have them write symphonies that how many people will be able to tell the difference between somebody that analyzed all of Mozart's work and how to do an original work by Mozart? How many people will be able to tell the difference between the composition that the computer did and one that Mozart did? a few people, but that number's getting smaller and smaller every year.
If you train a neural network to recognize text, like the example at the beginning of the video, it'll do a good job when you give it text. But if you give it something it's never seen before, like a weird math symbol or a picture of a dog, the AI is still going to guess what letter it is. It's just a program. It can't integrate new information the way a person could.
That's
sure,
'cause
you
it's-
can retrain it with
it's written
thousands
wrong.
of dog pictures, but we can hardly call that intelligence. I encountered this exact problem when I was trying to recognize text in some PDF files. Adobe Acrobat tries its best, but it just has to guess when it sees an equation, and it doesn't have the vocabulary to describe stuff like this. You wouldn't say that the program is lying because it got something wrong. It just wasn't designed to recognize math. A big part of AI's success right now is that it's easy to use rhetorical tricks to make it seem intelligent. The name itself, AI, is an obvious example. If a network can recognize words, wow, it can read. If a network can turn a text prompt into a picture, it's suddenly a painter. Like all good cults, AI promoters use mysteries to sneak their ideas in the door. We don't know what the hidden layers are doing or how the brain works. Maybe these machines learn the way brains learn, so we should put billions of dollars into stopping the AI apocalypse. We might not know exactly what the hidden layers are doing, but we know how machine learning works, and we know what it produces, so I can comfortably say that AI is trained to copy. You give the model training data in the hope that it will output the same thing a human did. There are setups where you don't need labeled data, like diffusion, which is what the best image generators use. But these networks are still copying the
They're
structure
still calling
of whatever they're trained on.
It's so frustrating because
Training
he's calling it
an
AI.
is just imprinting
It's
patterns
algorithms. He's
from
talking
the
about
training
algorithms,
data.
not
That's
AI.
no small feat. It can pick up on some
It's not
very
even attempting to be
complicated
AI.
patterns, but it's a far cry from creativity.
It's probability
By feeding it
oriented
a lot of images,
statistics.
a model can trick you into
Algorithm.
thinking it's creative.
It's
But
not
it really
fucking
is
AI.
just fitting whatever prompt you give it to the most likely output.
I have like a
Researchers
fucking
have been able to prompt these models to
explosion in
spit
my
out
head.
their own training data. So it's clear that the models are not synthesizing something new the way a person could.
It makes me angry because it's such a simple concept. I don't understand why
If you
someone
ask
of
a
his
person
caliber,
to
he can make
copy a
all his
painting
video, he
from
can
memory,
understand some of these
you're not going
concepts,
to get a
he can
perfect
regurgitate
copy.
them and repeat
You'll
them.
see what stuck out
But he
to them
doesn't
about
know the
the
difference
source
between a
and
logarithm
how they interpreted
or an
it.
algorithm
The
and
copy
a,
would have
an
that
AI.
person's
Like, I don't understand
aesthetic.
how he...
Stable Diffusion will give you the exact painting, and it might give it to you in an Etsy store mock-up. Proponents of AI often compare generating images to photography, but they're way out of their depth. If we can agree that machine learning models are fundamentally uncreative, then any creativity has to come into it on the human side. This is like photography, they say, because a photographer did not make whatever
Fucking
their
Age of
cats make.
Empires?
But the levers for creativity really don't exist with AI. You can change the prompt and some parameters to regenerate
This is
the
trying to be
picture,
popular now.
or use in-painting to regenerate part of a picture, but you have no precise way to control what gets produced beyond suggestion.
Alright, this guy just took a stab at trying to fucking twerp me.
Thing, a natural scene or some live
And
event,
so what I'm gonna
but
do
they
is
have
just
precise control
either
of
turn the fuck
position,
away.
focus, focal length, white balance, color balance, lens characteristics, and really an uncountable number of other factors. Photos certainly have an objective element to them, but the decision to capture a certain image and the characteristics of that image are all up to the artist. Generating a picture with AI is guesswork, and the hilarious new field of prompt engineering amounts to typing in the name of an artist whose style you want to copy, or adding the words high quality to the prompt. Researchers at Microsoft were happy to demo their new Cody network with prompts like oil painting, cosmic horror painting, elegant, intricate, art station, concept art by Craig Mullins, detailed. Even the bleeding edge tech demos have to put art station in their prompts to make them look good. Which brings us to the fact that practically all the datasets used in big AI projects are scraped from the web without consent. Again, you can do whatever you want if you call it research. Stable Diffusion has an insistent problem where the images it generates have watermarks from the pictures they stole. Getty Images is currently suing them over this. Stable Diffusion uses LION, a tenuous acronym for a dataset of almost 6 billion image-text pairs. The clever thing about LAION is that it just has links to the images, so you can't sue them for copyright infringement. Model makers can download the pictures themselves, and then pivot their research project into a business once the model is up and running. Stable Diffusion also took images from DeviantArt to train its model, and in response to the controversy, DeviantArt built Diffusion right into the site, so lazy people can shit it up with ugly 500 by 500 pictures of teddy bear smoking weed or furry on the moon detailed Andy Warhol. But worry not, if somebody puts your name in their prompt, and you find it, and complain to DeviantArt about it, they might take the generated image down. And you can label your art as no AI, so companies can exclude it from training in the future if they want to. It's worrying how eagerly the people charged with running communities will just turn them into storefronts. DeviantArt isn't known for its high-quality art, sorry, but it always felt like a site for art people to hang out on. The people who run it are all but telling their users that it's not safe to post their work there anymore. This is a whole can of worms, but the justification for this is another pro-AI talking point. Machine learning is democratizing
I'll be honest,
art.
I knew a girl
There's
who was
no
on that site,
definition of
and all she
democracy
did
where
was
this
post
makes
like
any
borderline
sense.
nudes of herself.
Democracy is when the government acts in accordance with the
It was like her
will and
OnlyFans
best
before
interests of its
OnlyFans.
people. The production of art is not democratic, and democracy is totally irrelevant to it. Art collectives can be run in a democratic way, but I don't
think maybe
see
I saw
AI
some cool stuff on there. I
democratizing
posted some
Blizzard
art on there one
Studios
time, but
anytime soon.
after
They're
I
really
saw
just
her
telling
shit,
on
then I was,
themselves.
I mean,
In the political code
I
that
left the
news
site.
organizations
Like,
and pundits use,
I don't know what's happening here.
democracy is intimately related to a free market.
But now to
Something
think
is
back on it,
more
like, through the
democratic
lens of
if
having
it
seen
opens up new
OnlyFans,
revenue streams.
that's what the fuck she was
Normal
doing.
companies can lay off their illustrators and designers, and there are new opportunities to sell computing power or services like data labeling. The freer the market, the freer the people, as they say. But taking the argument at face value, anyone who cares about their art will automatically avoid AI, because it's hard to express your own vision when you have to do it through a game of telephone. I'm not going to call myself an artist, but to make these videos I have to assemble a lot of writing, video, and sound, and make editing decisions.
This guy has stolen so
There
much
is no world
art.
where I write a script and then say, fuck it, I'll just generate the visuals. Any solo developer or team that cares about its product is not going to
He's
settle
literally
for
just
good game design
like,
with
if
a
you
bunch
watch
of
his video,
melty
it's just
computer-generated art.
games and art from games, and you can hear the audio, right? It's just he's playing the audio from Age of Empires multiple times. Like,
A lot of middle-of-the-road games could get away with AI-generated content, so I think it will be pretty popular.
it's full on
But
hypocrisy.
the few
here.
games that are unmistakably high art, the Earthbounds, Dark Souls, and Rain Worlds, are the result of a consistent, authorial vision that patterns their largest and smallest features.
His video is really long, and it's kind of important, so maybe I
It
will
takes a visionary like
just snip
Shigesato
this and post
Itoi
it
to
once this
coordinate
video's
the
done.
perfect harmony of mechanics, visuals,
Perfect.
writing, and sound that we got with Earthbound. Using AI not only takes opportunities away from the Itois of the world, it forecloses on the possibility of a singular vision by using some complicated statistics to automatically design games by committee. The emotional climax of Earthbound is one of the most significant artistic achievements in the history of games. I can't spoil it in good conscience, and it can't be conveyed through video, so if you know, you know. The game's balance of quirky but genuine writing, the battle system, and its incredibly solid theming are kind of subverted by a sudden shift in tone near the end of the game, but this shift not only preserves its themes, but makes us feel them even more deeply. Undertale is good, but to this day nothing has touched Earthbound. Often it's designed so counterintuitively and written so delicately that no machine will ever be able to touch it. In a word, Earthbound is new, and AI can only mix up what has come before. So if you're interested in making good art, AI is automatically useless to you. Machine learning is not democratizing art so much as outcompeting it. It's not just a couple small companies scraping training data. OpenAI is the big one. They made GPT and DALL-E, some of the most sophisticated text and image generators out there. The company's leadership is a who's who of alleged prescription amphetamine abusers and alleged child blood injectors. Sam Altman, the CEO, is literally trying to make New World Order conspiracy theories real. His WorldCoin project is scanning people's retinas to make a blockchain-based global digital ID system.
Owned by the majority of humanity.
or it was for about a week. WorldCoin was giving Kenyan people $50 in exchange for retina scans, until the government noticed, started investigating, and told them to knock it off. The story is similar in every other country WorldCoin has launched in. We're really reaching a new level of big tech Rube Goldberg machines. Because AI, the AI that Sam Altman's other company makes and sells, is scary to him, we need a way to identify humans, and the best way to do that is to make a database of people's retinas,
I'm
which
reacting.
is also a bank
I gotta
powered
say
by
what I'm
a
thinking
Ponzi
here.
scheme. Oh,
Okay. Obviously, identifying people is of interest to people who want to control people. This is a known. So the trade-offs are like security, right, versus freedom and creativity, right? So when people aren't cataloged, identified, tracked, monitored, they have more freedom, right? And then you can go places without being inspected or impeded financially, if you will, and all of these other things, right? You have more freedom. You can go more places. You can do more things. You can be unhindered more. There will be no way if they're not tracking you, and you're not tracked, your behavior's not tracked. There can be no response to your behavior. It cannot be controlled, right? So, like, if you are buying guns and nobody knows you're buying guns, there's no impedance to you buying guns, right? Like, I mean, this is a horrible example probably, but it's pretty accessible, right? Whereas you can very quickly determine the antithesis of this argument, that when everybody is tracked and everybody's gun purchases are tracked, there's more security because you can control and restrict who buys guns, from where, what kind of guns, when they can, conditions about them that you know about to determine if they can buy guns, and so on and so forth. So, and then this extends to like going to grocery stores, getting bread, getting a job, getting into college, you know, whatever an evil Hitler fucking Democrat leader person wants to determine, you know, you can't do this job because you're not X, Y, or, you know, this company needs X, Y, or Z percentage of people of different ethnicities, you're disqualified. You know what I mean? That's where I'm going with that. Obviously, there's only one party that does that right now. It's Democrat Party. You know, everybody else does, you know, it's more ability based. Or it's racist, one of the two. I mean, let's be honest. Well, no party's ideal. And there are, when you have the freedom to pick, then there are tendencies toward nepotism and racial determinations, you know. So it isn't like one way is better than the other way definitively. That's not, it's actually a false dichotomy, right? But anyways, that's a large aside to the kind of control that you can imagine, you know, and the things that you can resist and then stop additional evil things from happening, right? So at some point, it won't be possible to contest police at all. Like, during today's world, you really can't contest it, but it's like someone will die and then a news story will happen and a riot will come out and there will be change from that, right? Like, some people will go to prison, some other people will be like, ooh, shit, maybe let's not step on people's necks, you know? We'll go fucking prison. And maybe some other people will be like, you know what, we need a training program for our police so they don't step on people's necks. You know, just this, and then like there's progress where people stop stepping on people's necks, right? Like, so but what's coming is they're just gonna be able to debilitate you as any given person in an interaction. There'll be a device that'll come out like a taser, a more advanced taser, a more reliable taser. It might just be a taser, I don't know. And it'll be like, comply, and then the person will be like, yes or no. You know, they'll determine whether they're going to comply, and then the officer will be like, oh, he's not complying, and then they will initiate the non-compliance device, right? And then that person will comply. They won't get their neck stepped on, but there will be no negotiation in that environment, right? You're just gonna you're gonna go to jail. You're gonna, whatever's gonna happen, whatever wrongful treatment's gonna happen, it's going to happen to you. And whether it was wrong or right, you know, there might not be a riot because that whatever that device ends up being will be scaled up so that riots will be eliminated as well. Like those are things in the future, right? That's just stuff that's going to happen. So I don't know. I'm going to get back to the video because I got way off on a tangent from like, if you track everybody with this world coin that they're talking about, which is a dumb idea in my opinion, there will be more control of people. There will be more security, but with that becomes power that will corrupt people, and then people will be abused and mistreated because I don't know if you've ever been on a Discord before, like how wide the audience is that's going to review this video or even consider it. Probably gamers though, so most people have been on a Discord. Some Discords have shitty people running them, right? Like, I mean, I've been on a Discord where like they implemented a feature that let them additionally fuck with people, right? Like they had a bot that would let them fuck with people. like the only purpose for it was to screw with people, and I left that Discord. I was like, I'm not gonna be a part of this. I don't want anything to do with it, right? And I've been part of development teams where like someone had that idea where they were gonna make something that they could screw with people with, and I was like, no, it's just like there's no world where you can trust that to someone because you give that power to someone who's good. This is the whole problem with communism too, by the way. You got your ideal person who's leading the country with communism, right? And they're distributing things and they have good intentions and everything's great. And then that motherfucker dies, is murdered, is corrupted, or is extorted or is blackmailed. However it happens, that leadership changes. It doesn't even have to be the person's personality could change. They could just get sick and just act different, or maybe someone just does something that ticks them off and then they take a personal vendetta and they target people, right? So whatever it is, that ideal leadership changes and that power that they have becomes corrupted and then they use it to abuse people. And so I'm not saying the US is the best system, but systems with checks and balances and votes tend to not have those issues, right? So, although I will say that there are some countries that I won't name by name that have a culture of doing the right thing and the golden rule and treating everybody really well, that have produced some leaders that were better than the antithesis leader that I mentioned. But still, it's the same problem though, because as soon as that person's gone or corrupted, then you have a person with all the power and they're doing the wrong things. So, but anyway, I'm gonna get back to the video.
When he threw universal basic income in there too.
Oh, it's back to the Bitcoin thing.
This is all to say that OpenAI's people have been drinking the silk paying people $50 in exchange for retina scans until the government noticed, started investigating, and told them to knock it off. The story is similar in every other country WorldCoin has launched in. We're really reaching a new level of big tech Rube Goldberg machines. Because AI, the AI that Sam Altman's other company makes and sells, is scary to him, we need a way to identify humans. And the best way to do that is to make a database of people's retinas, which is also a bank, powered by a Ponzi scheme. Oh, and he threw universal basic income in there too.
Never trust a WebP user. WebP image. Oofin.
This is all to say that OpenAI's people have been drinking the Silicon Valley Kool-Aid for a long time. This might come as a shock, but OpenAI started as a non-profit research organization and then pivoted once they realized they could make money.
We started as a non-profit. We learned early on that we were going to need far more capital than we were able to raise as a non-profit. Our non-profit is still fully in charge. Everything else flows to the non-profit. And the non-profit is like in voting control, lets us make a bunch of non-standard decisions.
This is Altman.
Can cancel equity, can do a whole bunch of other things.
Ironically, very little of their work is open. Another shock, OpenAI steals all its training data. There are no laws about this yet, so they don't have to tell us where the DALL-E images came from, but no licensed datasets actually exist.
Okay, I'm going to say something about nonprofits. I don't want to say the wrong term, but nonprofits are trying to generate money, right? And they're trying to grow. So while they try to, on paper, put down that the profits are equal to the costs, they're fucking paying people. And businesses aren't people. It's an illusion. Businesses are not a real, they're a made-up entity, a vehicle for paying people. That's what companies are. They can be other things, they can be multiple things at once, but in terms of this dialogue, what I'm trying to express is that if you have a nonprofit company, that doesn't mean fucking shit to me, right? That all that means to me, it does mean something. It means that your profits are going to equal your costs. But you're paying people. You know, people are going to work and they're making money and they're taking home a check from nonprofits. Nonprofits have employees. That is a reality that like exceeds. Anyway, any company could just show that their profits, you know what I mean? Like it's just, so they're not on the stock market. You know what I mean? Like, okay, they're not dispersing their profits to the investors. Okay. Their investors are just taking it on the chin for them because of altruism, right? So like you eliminated one group of people from the money pit that it is. And you have good intent behind it to get there, right? So but yeah, especially in this context, especially with Altman, especially with everything that's going on in the context of this AI, non-profit's a fucking joke. It's like saying, yeah. Anyway, I think I thoroughly explained it, but just in case I didn't, I just want to beat it to death one more time, and I just want to say that the incomes of the people who work at the nonprofit are increasing. That people are real, companies are not, and whether it's a nonprofit or a profit, it's paying people. So the idea of, oh, well, this company is better than this other company is fucking nonsense to me, because they all have goals, they all have agendas, because that's what people have, and people make companies. So anyway, nonprofit. I mean, I like dog shelters. I like homeless shelters. I donate to a homeless shelter all the time. I usually donate on my stream to Traverse City's Safe Harbor, because basically it's winter up there, and if you're homeless at night, you die in the winter. So I think it's an important thing to fund. But at the same time, like I know that there's people that work there. I know that they're making money, and I know that they're trying to expand, because I know that like as soon as you have one shelter and you're good at it, and other places are either not as good or you want to emulate them because they're good, like then there's growth, right? So it's just, anyways, yeah, nonprofit, not.
So it's a pretty safe bet that they just took billions of images. GPT is the same deal with text. OpenAI just crawled the internet, collecting text to train its model with, or used an existing dataset like Common Crawl. They're actually ramping up to do this again. So if you have a website and you don't want OpenAI to have your website, please put these lines in your robot.txt. The problem with any pushback against stolen training data is that the theft already happened. There are billions of images sitting on these people's hard drives already, and adding a no AI tag to your DeviantArt isn't going to change that. I'm out of my depth here, but I also seriously doubt that training on copyrighted data will become illegal. At a very basic level, I think a judge will see a generated image and think what most of us did. The AI just made a picture. Even in the best case scenario, the law will only rush to enforce copyright when it's some billion-dollar company being infringed upon. And even then, people will always find a way to access digital files. A solo artist without the resources to recognize or prosecute copyright infringement couldn't really do anything to protect their work, even if there was some legal framework in place.
He's presenting it as one-sided, but that's not what's going to happen. Some companies will profit from securing the safety of other people's work, and some companies will profit from exploiting it. And these companies will compete in the legal realm around that. And so anyways, yeah. I mean, I say companies, obviously it's going to be people, but people are representing the interest of those companies. So anyway, this language is complicated.
The outputs from machine learning systems are another matter. AI hasn't really been litigated yet, but there have been some relevant fights over the patents and copyrights of AI-generated work. A judge decided that an AI could not be the author of a patent, but whether a person could patent an AI-assisted invention is beyond the scope of that case. As far as I know, 3 people have tried to copyright AI-generated art. Jason Allen, who won an art competition with his piece, Stephen Taller, the same guy who tried to make his AI a patent author, and Chris Castanova. All 3 were denied, and the US Copyright Office is very clear that they did not make the artwork. A computer did. In Castanova's case, she was trying to protect a comic, and the Copyright Office decided that the text and layout, the stuff she actually did herself, was protected, while the artwork was not.
Wow.
The Copyright Office even makes the argument that AI-generated art is like commissioning an artist, stating that Castanova wouldn't be the author if she paid somebody else to draw a holographic elderly white woman named Rhea. Rhea is having curly hair and she is inside a spaceship, Star Trek spaceship. Rhea is a hologram, octane render, cinematic, hyper-detailed Unreal Engine. But really, there's a lot of money behind AI art, and there are no definitive rulings or laws about it yet. All things considered, a letter from the Copyright Office doesn't carry a ton of weight. Pretty much every big company stands to profit from making AI-generated works copyrightable. And if Disney is any indication, it's well within their means to just change American copyright law. Even if that doesn't happen, they can just lie. AI-generated visual art is obvious, but text, code, animation, and design drafts are easy to pass off as human, so long as you get a human to edit them. AI is literally incapable of meeting the level of creativity required for a copyright. But since AI art sometimes kind of looks new, I think the law will decide that AI is creative. The US government is thinking about putting laws in place around AI specifically, but there's nothing concrete yet, and it's all shrouded in political nonsense language anyway. Direct regulation would be way more effective than copyright updates, for reasons I've discussed in the past. This stuff has put us in a situation where there are really no good answers. Machine learning is broadly useful, but generative AI could set the whole field back if it gets regulated. There are projects to watermark generated images, but they're all run by AI companies who want to filter AI images out of their datasets.
Imagine cooking something and there are no nutrition labels. Now imagine the same but for your digital creations. Wouldn't it be dope to have all the info readily available and protected for everything you create?
At the same time, companies like OpenAI are putting tons of money into destabilizing and potentially killing off swaths of art, writing, and design jobs. A good chunk of people who hire designers have no taste and think they could do the job better anyway. Now they can tell an AI to make the logo pop, and it won't laugh awkwardly and ignore them. Somebody who needs a stock photo to put at the top of their blog post could license a picture, or just spit out a 100% free landscape from Midjourney. With a little effort, you can even get free pictures of your fursona. People tend to follow the path of least resistance. Having strong values and well-articulated opinions about subjects like this is a privileged position to be in. People use these tools without knowing how they came to be or what they represent. There's a good chance slave labor was involved somewhere in making your phone, so we have no standing to morally judge people using AI.
That's just hilarious.
On average, convenience always wins. Crying consumerism is bad has never worked. The companies behind this stuff are the enemy. The individuals promoting it are just useful idiots, who you shouldn't waste energy arguing with. AI bias is another major talking point right now. Since models pick up and copy patterns in their training data, they're also very sensitive to those patterns. A model meant to label things in images might throw out racist labels, either because it was only fed images of white people, or because the training data was labeled by biased people. ImageNet, the first big image dataset,
But what if cats are hidden?
What about these silly cats?
filed bisexual people under the category of sensualist, alongside cocksuckers and pagans. Whatever you think about that, structuring the data this way is somebody's judgment, not an objective
Oh my God.
scientific taxonomy.
That shit's hilarious.
A couple of artists had the idea to expose this bias by letting people classify themselves with ImageNet, and it was so good at being racist that the people who compiled the dataset went into crisis mode and deleted 500,000 images. More recently, OpenAI has neutered ChatGPT more and more to hide its biases from users.
That shit's
Often
hilarious.
when they announce that ChatGPT is less biased, they haven't actually changed the dataset or the model structure. They're just getting between you and the AI to avoid bad press. I
Yeah.
mean, to protect users. They can add extra words
shit-
before
that shit was
or
out
after
loud.
whatever you type
That was the
to
loud
condition
part.
the bot's response,
It was the quiet part.
or detect
However
messages
you want
that
to
they
term it.
deem inappropriate
Glad
and
you said
send the AI a different prompt altogether. Everything we make is ultimately going to be shaped by the world we live in, and that's doubly true for vague words and concepts. Since AI is not intelligent, it necessarily reflects the people who made it. More diverse datasets might eliminate bias if you're using AI to do medical diagnosis or something.
What if you're doing medical research? You give your machine learning program 100,000 images of, like, from MRIs of, like, people's lungs, and you're like, some of these have tuberculosis, some of these don't. And what you can do is see if the computer gets better at diagnosing tuberculosis from an MRI than doctors are. And what do you know? They've done that, and the computers are better. Great. So now, if
Oh my
you're
God, come on,
researching
lady. Fucking you're stretching.
how symptoms of tuberculosis
She used
develop
one
so you
example
can
of one
start
algorithm
diagnosing
doing
it
something
earlier.
bad to say that
You
all
can try
algorithms
to figure
can't
out
do
the
something.
pattern that this machine learning program is finding. Like,
Seriously, the level of fucking stupid. This person has a fucking doctorate, and that's the kind of fucking false dichotomy bullshit she just fucking spouted. This lady needs to be fucking put back through fucking college. That shit is retarded. Like, someone fucking educate her. How the shit? She's sitting in front of a bunch of fucking books like she's really smart too. That's my favorite thing about this shit. Dude, I cannot believe she fucking said that shit. What the fuck? Okay, this lady's gonna fucking piss me
how
off, so I'm just
exactly
gonna
is
skip
it
her
making
shit.
this diagnosis?
Will just give you the most popular biases. There's no magic here. Energy is conserved, and you cannot get unbiased
Jesus.
data from biased people. I hope that I've made this technology look like what it is. A bunch of very capable systems to recognize patterns.
Okay, so there's a couple things I need to say about that last bit. That guy put in his video a lady who had a doctorate who is saying shit about AI that she clearly knew not a fucking thing about, okay? And so, like, first, she's like the primary person I would want to see this fucking video because, like, she doesn't fucking understand shit, right? Like, she just has no idea. She's like, oh, well, this one didn't work, so they all didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, okay, so, like, if you, let's say, okay, so I'm going to explain the exact issue with this by just telling you the actual thing that would happen. You set up AI to diagnose something based on pictures. Maybe it's like the New York Times did, where they're trying to determine how many bombings there were this year in South and Eastern Gaza, right? Because that's a real thing that they did. The AI flagged 1,000 of these things. They individually inspected them as people to determine how many were actually hits. And they were trying to check for 2,000-pound bombs, so they were trying to check for 50 to 60, was it meters wide, I think? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that they were using humans to manually inspect the 1,000 hits that the AI gave them. So right now, AI is to that point, right, where you can ask for it to check, it'll tell you, and then you can have human observation conserve all that time. Because it inspected the whole fucking area, right? So there's going to be some amount of error involved, because you can suppose, well, if you track how many it rightfully corrected and wrongfully corrected, and then you can also figure out kind of how many it missed, right, by trying to count it, by looking at an area, figuring out how many it's missed, and then do an approximation, right? So there's going to be errors on both sides of that, and that's always going to be true, right? It's only going to be right or wrong in all of these cases, and it's going to have some, because it's based off of probability, it's going to have a probability of being right or being a probability of being wrong. And so there's this whole thing that needs to be considered where, like, okay, so in her example, it's trying to detect whether it's tuberculosis or not that a person has, and it's AI that's doing it, and it's more wrong than doctors. Okay, it's one model, right? And it's been trained for X amount of time on that data set, and it was programmed by someone, and it's got a whole structure to it and all these other things, to factor in. So it's going to have a probability of being right, and it's going to have a probability of being wrong. The next model is going to have a different probability, and the next model, and the next model, and the next model. And hopefully, if people are improving the thing, the accuracy is increasing, right? So, like, that's my primary frustration with this person's whole fucking stupid dichotomy or declaration that, like, okay, well, one didn't work, so they all didn't work, so therefore you can say that this thing is better than that other thing. She created this fucking straw man that just pissed me off effectively. And that's why I negated her entire fucking education. That's why I said, like, everything she was ever taught just went out the window in terms for my respect, because that shit was so wrong, like, just on face value, like a child should understand it, right? Like, yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go back to it. I don't
AI
understand.
is not intelligent.
There's a problem where they've given these people degrees, and there's no what they're actually trained in and what they end up doing, because this person did a degree in AI, and she's judging AI and talking about it, and she has no information on it, right? She's creating false dichotomies, and she's not even aware of it, right? She's just saying, well, one didn't work, so they all didn't work. And, like, that level of stupidity or like unawareness, like, she's got a degree in something. I'm sure she knows something. I'm sure she went to school and was taught stuff and regurgitated that shit and passed some kind of a standardized test, or maybe she was just like 10 points ahead of the next guy, so she just doesn't suck as bad as the other people in her class. Maybe she was like an A student and they were all C students, or maybe she's a C student but she's got a friend who's high up and she's got notoriety, and so now this guy put her in a video, or maybe she's just saying the thing that he wants her to say, so he put her in the video. Whatever it is, I don't actually know. This could have been like an offhanded comment in an interview on accident, and then this guy's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna snip that. I don't know. One way or the other, she doesn't know that shit, and she's just saying false dichotomy, just spouting it out there. So, but I think that they said that she was like responsible for doing some kind of review on AI ethics. So, like, I think she's in a role that she doesn't know how to do just because she's good at ethics, but she doesn't understand how AI works. I don't know. Anyway.
And the only real plan that the machine learning companies have is to scrape more data and make even bigger models with the belief that they'll somehow hit a critical mass. Then the computer will finally awaken and fall in love with them.
When we saw your initial feedback
so that's
in the
a joke, but
we realized how important romantic
obviously if you create a good
AI
enough feedback
can be for
loop,
emotional
you can improve the
well-being,
accuracy.
and decided that we should build a dedicated app for that.
There's been an explosion of worried experts, warning the public that AI is going to become sapient and do something unspecified, but really bad. This is magical thinking. Just a bunch of self-proclaimed rationalists working themselves up over nothing. But
okay, that shit is wrong right there. This guy has no idea. This guy doesn't know the difference between an algorithm and true AI, and that is why he's saying that statement. Because if you look at what algorithms do today, even the algorithm could do something fucked up, right? Because you could program an algorithm to run the oxygen supply on a spaceship, and it could just prioritize something wrong and remove the fucking oxygen. And that's like the primary example that I think even Neil deGrasse Tyson gave for concerns about AI, right? Like, that's where I'm getting that from. It's just that you can hand these algorithms control over something, and they can control it wrong. This is a possibility. And so, like, however much control you give them, they can do that shit wrong. So like, yeah, it is a big deal, and the AI can go backwards. Now, as far as like negating all these other people with like the monstrous theories where like the AI comes alive and it just fucking tries to kill us all, that also can happen with the other form of AI. Large language models can't do that because large language models, right now, they just spit out the answer in text. And so that text will go somewhere and it'll be an answer, and then another autogen or a person is going to review it, right? Right now, there's no action that comes out of it. It's not a direct. There's some kind of a filter. There's a cleanup routine. There's a process because we've become aware immediately upon building these devices that they spit out the wrong answers. So we have like a buffer, or we have some kind of a process for between its output and between what actually happens. Okay. If someone were to hook the output up directly to like the nuclear launches in the US, if they were directly connected, God damn it, there's probably some fucking stupid ass Democrats that might do that. But anyways, if someone does that shit, then yeah, it would end our race. It might just one day decide to launch nukes. I don't think anyone's gonna do that. I don't think anyone's dumb enough to do that. I hope. I'm actually concerned that some people are dumb enough to do that. Oh fuck. See, because people are dumb enough to vote for people who have given money to Iran for a nuclear deal, therefore, which is like 1954, people gave money to India and a nuclear deal to India. India weaponized 1974. That's a real thing that happened. People stupidly voted for people who then stupidly funded the development of nuclear weaponization that another country was doing. Like when that country didn't have access to it at all. And then they repeated that shit with a nuclear deal for Iran. So, yeah. Okay, that's out there. Yeah. So where I was initially assessing this, I thought the stupidity level is much lower than it actually is, and it's high enough that someone's going to put a nuclear launch, and someone's going to put an an algorithm in charge of that shit, and it's going to spit out the wrong answer someday. That's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take before that happens, but it's going to happen for sure. Hopefully it takes so much time that we have occupied multiple planets. But yeah. See, there's a couple quirks with the human race. Like, one of them is that because we have our limited ability to worry about things, right? So like the best example of this is if you are a captain in the military, you are put in charge of no more than 250 people. And the expectation is that you will know very well 100 of those people. And so the way that military structures have always operated is that the leader of a given group is given the task of managing people smaller than the number that a person can manage, right? So like if you're a captain, you have people under you who are managing subgroups of people under you. And so you don't have to manage each person, you just have to manage the people who manage those peoples. And then those people then manage those people. And so the structure has a hierarchy that works within the bounds of our capacity to basically manage people. And the reason why that is an important aspect of the military is because if it didn't work that way, shit would get just as fucked up as bridges collapsing in the US, just as fucked up as oil leaking out of tankers into the oceans, leaking out of pipelines into the Great Lakes, into the oceans, and nuclear reactors exploding and dumping into the ocean, and nuclear reactors melting down, and possible CIA explosions that caused a nuclear reactor to melt down in Russia. Whatever happened there, the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline that was exploded with C4 that then leaked oil everywhere. All of these factors, right? So it's just like whether they're intentional, whether they're not intentional, whether they're like a lack of doing maintenance or all these other things, they fall within that realm of like not enough concern, not enough awareness, not enough priority, and outside the human capacity to monitor. And so, yeah, none of those things should happen. A bridge should never collapse, right? The nuclear reactor should never melt down, and that's why nuclear power is a fucking joke, because they start off the argument by saying that will never happen again. No. Because nuclear reactors are man-made, it is inevitable that they will fail. Because nuclear reactors can be lethal to however many people it is that a nuclear reactor can be lethal to, that is the reason why they should not be allowed. If a solar panel goes bad, there's a very finite amount of damage that shit can cause. And if it were to cause an extreme amount of damage, there would be a regulation put on it so that it couldn't do that ever again, nowhere in the world. There would be codes for it to eliminate that. The same thing for a windmill. It can only kill so many birds. And if they kill enough birds, there's going to be regulation that just eliminates them, right? Well, with nuclear plants, there needs to be a regulation that eliminates them entirely because they are a fucking threat, right? And that shit's gonna fucking fail. That won't stop people from making nuclear reactors. Somebody's still gonna make them. There was a kid in the U.S., high school student, who made a nuclear reactor in his fucking tool shed. So like, it's something a high school student could do, right? It's not. You don't have to have a degree to make a nuclear reactor. You just have to read about how they work and collect the materials to make it. Like so within like 5 years, you could go from like average Joe to a nuclear reactor creator if you had the will and the intent and the motivation. So yeah, that kid was obviously smart, but I don't think he was beyond. I don't think he was like a genius. I mean, maybe he was, but I don't think he was, or he would have stopped way short of that. You know what I mean? He had to have a certain level of stupidity to do what he did. Okay. Off track. Way off track. Anyways, that was a really long-winded way of saying, like, this guy should not discount all of those experts' concerns about AI. Whether what they're describing is sentient AI, which I said at the start of this, we're only 1,000 lines of code to 10,000 lines of code away from creating. That's how far we are. At any moment today, someone could just write the 1,000 to 10,000 lines of code and create that shit. It could be created today, yesterday, tomorrow, whenever. It's literally less than a few weeks of writing code. And as fast as you can write code today, I think it's possible that someone could create it within an hour. I don't think that is likely to happen. But because autogens exist and they can make full stack deployments, like one of these other videos I was going to review in a minute, you could actually get an AI to do it for you within a few minutes, right? So, yeah, and then it's just really a matter of how long it takes to train them. So, anyway, back to this video.
But it is weird that all these non-profits sprung up to scare us about AI's sentience. One of their keywords is alignment, which has a lot of definitions. OpenAI says it's the process of bringing AI into alignment with human values.
He's hitting on people trying to control AI
making sure
for malicious purposes, I think is where he's going.
It's kind of hard to take OpenAI's writing on safety and alignment seriously, because they talk about courageously and good-heartedly solving a bunch of problems that not only did they just make up, but which they're working very hard to create with their technology.
Okay. No. No. There are real things that AI. The hypocrisy in this video just fucking stuns me, right? Because he literally said the things that AI was doing bad, and then he's claiming that these companies are creating false problems when he's literally listed actual problems. So, like, yes and no. He's right and wrong again, but he's sensationalizing it. Maybe, I don't know.
This alignment has been done by humans reviewing the outputs from AI systems and judging whether they've adequately achieved their goals or not. It's a reasonable approach, but I can see it turning into the same sort of nightmare job as content moderation, especially if you're aligning an AI to attack the right sort of people with a drone. Since AI is apparently going to be smarter than humans now, OpenAI proposes that another machine learning system does the alignment for us.
I didn't expect for him to hit on this part, but yeah, we're gonna have AI moderating AI. That's going to happen 100% of the way. And the way that those two interface, there will be humans putting bullshit in between the output of those AIs and what they see from each other. And that is going to fuck shit up.
Companies love the just keep adding shit approach. We can have an AI train the AI that aligns the other AI. Whatever the people involved think they're doing, they're acting as a smokescreen. Selling sentience or superintelligence as the main risk of AI diverts attention from how machine learning is being used, and it positions AI as a force of nature.
This shit's true.
It's already making objective judgments. It's already intelligent, but we need a lot of money to stop it from doing sci-fi novel things. Superintelligence is the scary part, but it sneaks in the premise that these models are capable of making objective judgments, or at the very least, informed judgments. The real purpose of alignment is to make AI better at performing these judgments. Researchers at MIT give a three-part definition of alignment. AI should produce accurate outcomes, consistently achieve its goals, and produce value for stakeholders. Stakeholder value is when you pay shareholders and pretend to help the environment. In the article I'm referencing, they discuss the Australian Tax Office, who deployed AI to analyze...
Okay, he's applying a lot of sarcasm and he's cutting a lot of corners. He's not wrong, but yeah, okay, yeah.
...people's claims as they filled them out and nudge them toward productive claim behaviors, in their words. Paying taxes is cool and all, but the ability to define a productive behavior and use a neural network to quietly nudge users toward it is worrying. It's not imperative that the AI be truly intelligent. Behavioral nudging has been in the works for all of the 21st century. The brainchild of B.F. Skinner and the...
Okay, behavioral nudging. He's talking about thought control. I don't know why people have to mince words so much. He's talking about thought control.
Entrepreneurs that practice his ideas. Nudging...
Influencing, I think, is the proper term today.
...is about making the incentives that drive you toward one choice or another frictionless and invisible. Or preying on your animal brain. Hunger, horniness, fear. On the internet, we have recommendation algorithms. The invisible force that decides what order you see tweets in, or what mass of videos show up on your YouTube homepage. These are tuned in such a way that the maximum number of people will become addicted to looking at these platforms. But neural networks allow for a system that nudges you, not just an average of people with similar interests to you, but perfect recommendations based on the specific things you've engaged with in the past. YouTube's been doing this for years, so in this particular domain, we're already living in the future.
Human is the important word there. That's because the YouTube algorithm is all about helping humans find the most relevant content as easily as possible. YouTube's entire goal is to increase human retention.
Yeah, socialism, and has history not taught us enough?
I think that's a good description. The activist furries have taken over pop culture.
Oh, it's...
Fucking pronouns!
Oldest first, and search is a mishmash of actual results.
Okay, so he's just like doing like a montage of all that shit, so I'm just gonna try to like short that. I don't like his music. It's annoying.
We won't know what this does to somebody's psyche for another decade or so, but for me, the fun of being online has always been about search and discovery. Now, sites like YouTube are taking away the few tools I had to find new stuff. They briefly removed the option to sort a channel's videos by oldest first, and search is a mishmash of actual results and useless recommendations.
This is ticking me off. Stop playing your shit music, dude. Just gonna skip all that shit.
It's obvious if you read anything they
knocked
write,
that shit off.
and they're happy to treat us like stupid animals because they think that if you can be manipulated, you deserve to be. Everything is getting dumber and thinner, slowly being instrumentalized to just keep you on the TikTok treadmill or the Diablo Immortal treadmill without producing any sensations or thoughts. While we're here, hey other people who make videos, if you have nothing to say about a topic, you can just make a video about something else. You don't have to waste hundreds of hours in editing to say that you played a game from 5 years ago and it's so liminal. Wow, you beat Dark Souls with a straight sword. Is that even freaking possible? Cool challenge run, better see if HelloFresh wants to pay for it. You should try the Zweihander next. You can tell us why it's such a hidden gem. This is a good video. The intro's a little too long, but the guy did an interesting experiment and actually shared some useful reflections on the experience of playing Ikaruga every day, which most people haven't done. It has less than 1,000 views. This is a good video, an exhaustive history of Nintendo that actually has enough information to justify its runtime. It has less than 1,000 views. I don't care about the Garten of Banban iceberg if you have nothing interesting to say about it. I know this is a pretty edgy opinion, but anything that makes you stop and think runs counter to what the content businesses want. They want to monopolize your time, and just like a slot machine, the best way to do that is to keep the screen.
He's got a valid point that the YouTube algorithm is pushing certain videos and it's hiding other videos. It's a valid point. He's promoting some videos that he personally likes, and I guess he's bashing other videos. I kind of think like this is kind of cringy. Like he didn't need to do this dumb shit.
Screen throbbing with noise and light. Winning the game or learning something about a subject or another person stops being the goal. Eventually, even fun becomes secondary to the rhythm of dopamine release. Slot players don't like winning. It breaks the rhythm. The real AI apocalypse is this hand-in-glove relationship that's emerging between us and the systems that control us. A perfect recommendation algorithm can pinpoint every potential whale, and it will also make the average person waste more time and energy on the pointless dopamine drip.
Okay, so we've got 20 minutes left, and all he's doing is fucking filler and bullshit to extend the content. Obviously, slot machine players do like winning. That's mostly why they play. They're trying to get back however much money they fucking sunk. Maybe they're doing it for entertainment. I'm not saying they're not doing it for entertainment. But to say that they hate winning, that shit's bullshit. Alright.
Of content. AI alignment is really about aligning AI to better exploit us. The threat of superintelligence is just a cover. Other than the content itself getting
He's picking the worst fucking music.
Dumber, AI-driven engagement is a way to claw away more time from your actual, unmediated, unmonetized life. And there's an analog to this recommendation algorithm example in practically every industry.
He made it loud.
With silly videos, the stakes are relatively low, but police are using AI as an element of predictive policing. They want to know where crimes will happen before.
Okay. Before he says any fucking shit about predictive crime or AI-driven monitoring, before all of this shit, they in Los Angeles, particularly in areas of California, use statistical data manually to determine where crime would happen. They use statistical data from earthquakes to model where earthquakes would be located, and then someone came along and was like, we can use that on crime. And when they implemented that, crime went down because they found that their cops were hanging out at fucking donut shops and wherever else fucking cops hang out every fucking day. That's what they were doing. They were going on duty, they were going to a place that they were comfortable with, and they were hanging out there, and crime was down in that area, and it was high in other areas. They started using the models to determine where the cops would go. They started using GPS to track where the cops went. to verify whether they were actually performing that duty, and they observed remarkable decreases in crime. And then, the Democrats took over California and they fucked it all up, and now there's rampant crime all over the fucking place because what Democrats say that they're going to do. Like, liberal values are good. That's something that often gets ignored in probably when I stream, is like everything that the Democrats say they're going to do. that shit's pretty good, right? They're like, yeah, we're going to help the environment. We're going to fucking help poor people, and we're just going to do everything right. Yeah. And then they fucking fund wars, and they eliminate police, and they supply drugs to the populace. They open the borders to let more drug dealers in. They don't check for gang members. They don't monitor any kind of voting system. They just rig it so that they win. Like, it's just like, and then there's liberals, which are fine and good people, right? And then there's Democrats, which are like the evil fucking manipulative pieces of shit that manipulate those people so that they can go to pedo islands and start wars and fund wars and receive money from Iran, receive money from China, blow up fucking pipelines, and block Russia from being an ally, right? So, like, I know I'm covering a lot of topics, and also donate money to help India and Iran weaponize nuclear weapons, right? So there's a lot of bad things. The Democrats also had slavery. Like, they just, it's sad to me that liberals don't have an option that isn't evil. That's one of the largest problems politically in the U.S. is that liberals with good values don't have an option. They have no one to vote for. All they have is the evil Clintons. All they have is the fucking Biden can't get off the stage puppet fucking Epstein blackmailed, bullshit politicians, right? He's just anyway, yeah. And then they're just doing the dumb, and then like the antithesis is Trump, right? A narcissist who's like, he just wants to be really popular, so he just says whatever is popular and tries to do that, right? Like, he doesn't, like, it's he's so fucking transparent that like I can actually appreciate him, right? Because I'm just like, well, he's going to increase military spending, he's going to close the border. These are all things that are good for the U.S. He's going to do that shit. Is it good for everybody in the U.S.? Hell no. There's a lot of people that came here to escape being like tortured in their country or persecuted or half a thousand other things that are bad that can happen to you when you live somewhere else that's not the U.S. You can't even, like, if you live in Europe, you don't have freedom of speech. If you're in Canada, you don't have freedom of speech. If you're in California, you just half the time don't have freedom of speech, right? There's compulsory speech and all these other stupid things. Like, there are areas where you just don't have the freedoms, including in the U.S., that you have in other areas of the U.S. So, I mean, anyway, rant over. I'll return back to this guy. He was talking about the policing, and I was talking about the improvement of it, that when they did the earthquake study, that shit worked. But I think he's going to talk about the downside of it, where it's like profiling and like scary 1984 shit, right? Thought control.
Before they happen.
Restrictions based on race.
In the last 100 years or so, but the police have some bias problems, and any analysis tool they use will reproduce those problems. The FBI's bread and butter these days is grooming mentally ill people to become terrorists or drug dealers just so they can arrest them. Predictive policing is a way to divert blame onto an algorithm.
The FBI... Okay. The problem with what he just said is that it is both true and not true, right? There are cases where the FBI does exactly that. They groom someone to fucking perpetrate crimes. That shit happens. The fucking case where they abducted the governor, 9 out of the 10 people that I think that I'd heard about or read about were fucking FBI agents in that plot that are just like going along with the rest of the group's bad fucking ideas, right? Like, that shit was fucking stupid. Like, somebody, so you've got to reference that, you've got to verify that, check me on that. These are unverified things, but there's that case. There's one that I do know for definitively, which was the guy who was trying to get a promotion, so he actually trained other people to do terrorism, and then later tried to arrest them for the terrorism that he trained them to do and coax them into doing. So, like, yeah. And then there's the reality that, like, that is an FBI agent. That is not the whole FBI. And then there's the deep state where there's like, okay, they're, you know, certain politicians are being blackmailed and honeypotted and all this other shit so that they can be controlled. And one of the agencies that does that is the CIA or the FBI or, you know, like all these other different groups, because everybody has an agenda. Those people have the most power. These other people have power over them because they basically hold the keys to the cuffs or the jail cell open, right? So they can put you in there if they can get you to commit a crime that they can record. That's a reality. So anyways, all of that stuff combined, I think is important before considering the next set of 1984 bullshit that he's gonna fucking... It's not bullshit. I'm sure he's gonna do some legit concerns.
Algorithm instead of an officer or institution. It's a way to
Those issues are there without
objective
AI.
judgments. There's no arguing with a robot. Shield AI develops machine learning for police drones and fighter jets. They make software to kill and terrorize innocent people, but still found a way to valorize themselves on their...
Okay, so valorize, that is a very specific and meticulously picked word for what he's about to say, but beside that, I wanted to say that he's saying that that company creates robots that police use, and then separately military planes, not police planes, okay? So I don't know, I felt like it might be important to discern that, because it's evident when you watch the video footage, but it's not evident when he just words it out, right?
Their hip AF
Especially if your
tech startup
language is like if your second language is English, right?
website. Shield works with the Department of Defense, and they've partnered with other military AI companies, drone manufacturers, and even big
Raytheon.
dogs like Northrop Grumman.
Northrop Grumman.
Insurance companies want to start
LLT.
live updating your premiums using surveillance data, and there's a good chance they'll use AI to make those decisions. You have to have insurance. They have access to the sensors in all your devices, and behaviors that they decide are unhealthy can be punished with higher premiums.
Our clients want solutions centered around
higher premiums for people who aren't healthy, yeah. I mean, insurance companies with big data. It's weaponized data.
humans that will boost their productivity rather than replace them. I believe companies should focus on a few golden applications, vertical transformations, things that really scale and create value fast. In customers,
This is sales lingo. It's the 80-20. Everybody suggests it. Very few people follow it, but it's very attractive.
service where 30 to 35% of people are searching and classifying documented knowledge. We believe GenAI could reduce costs by 50 to 60%. In claims, where GenAI can not only augment information, but also write a settlement offer to customers.
That got dark fast. Okay, so if AI is writing settlement offers to customers, they're doing what they're already doing more viciously and more efficiently. You can't argue with robots. You'll get the offer, and then you'll have to litigate it, right? You'll be like, well, that's not enough, or it's enough. And then it'll go to litigation. So, and it's going to be pretty efficient, right? It's going to be like trying to give you as little as possible because they're a for-profit company. Or even if they're a non-profit, they'd still try to save money. They're a company. That's what I should say. Okay. So this is dark. This is really dark. Okay.
2 minutes. In underwriting, by analyzing customer needs to create hyper-personalized coverage.
Sorry you got depressed and ate too much ice cream. Sorry your brother lopped his finger off with a table saw and you sped to the hospital. But you'd better get a second job if you want to keep your car. AI allows companies to make more complicated inferences about you from the data they're already collecting. Deviations from the norm aren't hard to see, but with AI they can figure out exactly what you're up to and put a price on it. In a free market, when something bad happens to you, you have to be punished. Misfortune puts you in a position to be exploited, and as every Economics 101 textbook says, a market in equilibrium leaves no unexploited opportunities for individuals. So some individual, and companies are people, will swoop in to exploit
Companies are not people, motherfucker. God damn.
you. Tragedies are expensive. All the squabbles about ChatGPT and art theft are an important but relatively small part of the AI conversation. The creativity argument is one that the machine learning companies can afford to lose, so long as they're allowed to keep deploying their systems. Rationality is one of our big collective values, right? Making arbitrary decisions about somebody's welfare is frowned upon. And since we don't really have any traditions to defer to, we have to come up with reasons for things. People hate insurance companies and the police because they often just show up and make your life worse. AI offers two things: more exploitation and a veneer of objectivity. Until now, people have had to make difficult, complex decisions. But a neural network is an empty shell that will give you a decision if you feed it data. It works much faster than a person, and it's easy to argue that the decision is perfectly rational. A computer made it. If your insurance is automated...
Okay, so now he's playing like the brainwashing music, right? Like, he's not wrong, he's making valid points, but he's playing the brainwash music, you know what I mean?
Pricing decisions seem objective, and the contract can be revised in real time. Everything is stuffed with sensors now, and data is already being collected and sold. It has been for years. So there's a constantly updating profile of your behavior, and a neural network can use it to more perfectly screw you. Things had to develop this way because stock prices have to go up. Insurance adjustment must go from slow, messy, and human to this frictionless process that is always happening, a kind of stock ticker on the value of your life. As we run out of new sources of wealth, all the slack has to get taken out of the existing ones, because the number has to go up. There are a dizzying number of applications for AI. Most of it won't pan out, but some of it will. Memorable is one of the many ad tech companies using AI to make commercials as obnoxious as possible. They think they've got a model that can score ads on their memorability. So look forward to having 100,000 sugary jingles lodged in your brain. Yodo One, a mobile game publisher, came up with a bot that would identify potential whales playing their games. The head of their solutions team at the time, Chris Dossman, probably ran that project. He also built Yodo an AI to recommend microtransactions. To really hook somebody, you have to recommend the right item at the right time. Today, Dossman runs another machine learning ad tech company, Dicer.ai. AI can also churn out horrible articles to clog your Google searches, and it can probably do search engine optimization better than a person. Google will become even worse to compensate for this. They're pretty much giving up on web search altogether, and just using AI to answer whatever question you have. The dream of the internet, all the world's information at your fingertips, has been completely swallowed by companies like Google. The world's information is at their fingertips, and you can maybe get some of it through an automated chatbot, which is free for now, but they can charge you if the stock price ever goes down. AI has genuine uses, the same way the blockchain does. AI actually has a ton of genuine uses. Blockchain could be useful for physical goods tracking or something, and AI can be really useful if it has some kind of supervision. It could automate a lot of busy work. But right now, the trajectory we're on is using it to dehumanize everyone even further. The irony that we're automating the production of art instead of the jobs everybody hates shouldn't be lost on us.
Can I get a hit? Can I play not go out there?
There's also a trend of AI friends and companions, which is very sad. You can write a character for these bots to play, and it will keep that description in its attention to kind of roleplay with you. Porn is obviously the main use for this, and it's pretty much a perfect storm for gaming's core audience of horny, lonely people with high-end graphics cards. The League of Legends community may never recover, but if you stay in these AI communities for a while, you're bound to see people who just want somebody to talk to. People are getting lonelier, and it's not really being addressed by anybody in power. Apps like Replica, that use GPT to give you a pretend friend or girlfriend, are a market solution for loneliness. Replica got popular as a sort of AI therapy tool, which is sad in a different way, but it quickly devolved into making people pay to sext with their robot friends. These band-aids don't work. We know that the bonds of community are what make life worth living. Everybody knows that, but we simply have no way to address the crisis.
I don't have a lot of comments on this because I don't understand the correlation to AI exactly. I guess that they're talking about like automated responses coming back. So like, but I don't, I don't know. Like he went in a direction I don't know shit about really.
Crisis of loneliness, because those real relationships everybody wants cannot be transactional, and they're harder and harder to sustain in a world where everything is shoved into a financial mold. Every little incursion by an advertising firm or tech company eats into our space to live unmediated lives. Social media is an obvious example, an attempt to turn conversations into a market for attention. I want to celebrate machine learning. The potential in it is incredible. I want the AI assistant that can recommend papers to read and games to play. I like the goofy AI-generated voice videos, even if they're ethically questionable and gimmicky. I even want to play AI Dungeon, if they make it weird and free again. But everything we make is conditioned by the world, so every AI project has a tumor in its heart. These tools don't exist so that we can make better things or speed up work. They make minimum viable products with minimum supervision. They're gonna scan every actor's face and voice so nothing new can ever be made again. And the computer will write all the scripts too. Every game can be a totally personalized Skinner box, modifying itself with a live feed of your pupil dilation. The Bangladeshi guy delivering your McDonald's will have his pay docked if he walks too slow. We already have that one. A lot of this won't happen, but if entertainment companies move fast enough that AI-generated movies, for example, are the only movies, it doesn't really matter if they're bad. Bad compared to what? Is it too corny to ask that the self-appointed saviors of humanity at OpenAI work toward ennobling humanity a little bit? I don't care about Mars. I want my friends and family to have the security to live good lives and a safe, quiet place to do it in. If that is too much to ask, then why are we subsidizing these people's programming projects? I try not to dump a bunch of nihilistic bullshit on you at the end of my videos. I'd much rather piss you off. Really think about how many struggles in your life and the lives of people around you have been caused by Silicon Valley. How many industries they've destroyed while patting themselves on the back about disruption. How many people they've forced into unjust work contracts. How many kids they've given eating disorders. How much of our collective wealth and time they've wasted on gimmicky social media apps that shut down after a year. Even if you're heartless, we can all see that the big tech model is massively inefficient. We could do so much if these morons weren't so powerful. They deserve to at least be scared. When you start saying stuff like this, people come out of the woodwork to randomly tell you that the Soviet model didn't work. An alien system from a society we don't live in, from a time long past, is only relevant if you think politics is an RPG where you have to pick a class. It's actually the process of advocating and fighting for what we want. So I don't really care what the solution calls itself, but we're at a point where we need to choose between building a world for money to live in or a world for people to live in. You don't need political science or some complicated theory or some dogma to see that. Profits have to grow and we're out of room. However, on the whole, I think the prognosis is good. Organized labor came back with a vengeance during the pandemic, and although there are some shitty unions out there, it's been a long time since people have had access to institutions that are actually on their side. Union membership is low right now. It's been shrinking in the US for decades, but a few more high-profile victories could turn the tide.
No one said a word when these CEOs gave themselves 40% increases over the last 4 years, but when workers ask for their fair share, all of a sudden, it's a huge problem.
Life is going to get worse, but the thing is that by making living unbearable, megacorporations and their buddies in government...
Okay. That's not a definitive... He passed that off like that is the reality, right? He's just like, it's going to get worse. That's not definitive, okay? There's a lot of reasons why it's not. Because everything that is... Okay, so they're nonlinear things. Some things are becoming better, some things are becoming worse. It's going to be different. Like, no doubt about it. Things will be different. But there's no way to know whether, like, it's going to be better or worse, right? Because we're still headed for a next revolution. So there was a time when we all worked all the time, every day, because if we didn't, we would starve to death. And then there was a time where, like, okay, now it's all farming society, so we have, slaves working for us, and some of us are slaves and they're working every day. And then there's the industrial revolution where we started to replace people who were working every day with some machines that were working every day. And so now we're working like 8-hour shifts, 6-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, and it's more equal, air quotes, right? Equal, however you want to classify that. So the next evolution of that is going to be for us to work even less and to receive even more resources, because that's how that shit's going to work, right? It's like eventually robots will be cheaper to employ than people, and the amount of jobs that people will have available to them will be fewer than the amount of robots available to do the work, right? And so as labor rates oscillate and robots become more ubiquitous, it is not definitively sure or certain that that things will be worse. I don't like his pessimist, know-it-all bullshit. It's bullshit. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He passes off like he knows, and he doesn't fucking know. Obviously, humanity is going to make more mistakes. There's going to be more nuclear wars. There's going to be more nuclear bombs dropped. There's going to be more nuclear reactors fucking fail. There's going to be a lot of deaths. There's going to be a lot of wars. There's 25 wars going on right now. There's 100 volcanoes going off right this past year. There were 200 space launches by SpaceX. They're fucking up the atmosphere. They're fucking up the planet. Resources are going off planet. It's a lot of shit's happening that shouldn't be happening. As those things get worse, there will be more regulations against them. Things can only get so fucking bad in any one of these examples. So that's why I think, like, to say it's definitively going to get worse, hell no. He doesn't know that shit. No one could. No one could.
Create conditions that force people to organize and fight back. It's not good that we're barreling toward 100 crises at once, but we're here anyway, and people are really starting to feel it. It's easy to say things like, well, the automatic loom took a lot of jobs too, but workers have fewer and fewer places to go, so of course they're going to resist machine learning. AI is cool, but we can't just discard millions of displaced humans like they're old toys. The ongoing WGA and SAG strikes are very high profile, and AI is one of the union's central concerns.
The vast majority of our members are fighting to make a career. They're fighting to pay their rent and to take care of their families. The majority of our members don't make enough money to qualify for health insurance in a given year under our own plan, which is $26,500 approximately. The fact is, from the very beginning, we've said we're not here to block AI. What we are here to do is put guardrails in that make sure that our members won't be abused by this process and that they'll still have careers 3 years from now.
People are starting to rediscover the power of organization.
Okay. He's talking about, like, people fighting AI to try to sustain what we have going on now, as if the next evolution will be the end of humans. When in reality, companies don't need people. A company could, in theory, if you had the robots and you automated the orders, they wouldn't need any employees. It's shocking, right? But if you think about what they would actually need, none of those things, they don't need it. There are already McDonald's that are automated. You have a person that goes there and services the place. So right now there's still a couple of people with skilled jobs necessary. But at some point, that's going to be automated too. There'll be a fucking repair robot, right? He'll go out there and he'll come with the cables, and it'll be designed in a way that they'll know what's wrong and they can replace it. And then it'll be even less maintenance that is required to do that. Is that going to displace a lot of people's jobs? Yes. Are people going to have to find something else to do? Yes. Is there still going to be food for people? Yes. Why? Because that's what the corporations are going to gravitate toward, and they're going to supply those things, and the amount that it costs to get those things will go down. And it's just a matter of, like, facilitating it, right? It's inevitable. You can fight it all you want. It is inevitable. Things are going to become cheaper. That it is an inevitability. And when I say cheaper, I mean things are going to cost fewer labor hours. Okay, I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about currency. The dollar could go up and down. Gold could go up and down. All of these commodities can go up and down. The hours it takes to create a thing, that is going to go down. So the barter system that is built on I work for you and you pay me, and then I can buy something over there that someone else did labor to make, like that trade system, the labor is going to go down. That's what's going to happen. That is inescapable to the hill, right? Because that's the way everybody wants to work, right? Just if you had your way, you would just pick all the things that you want to do in your life and not have to work and do those things, right? And that's the dream. Maybe it's not the American dream, but it's a dream, right? Maybe some people like to do work and they want to do certain things. Like maybe it's a creative job that someone does and they want to do that thing, and sure they can keep on doing that thing, and it'll be something that humans will care about because it'll be something another human made. There'll be like an emotion tied to that and an appreciation that will go beyond like, okay, well, machines made that, so fucking what? You know what I mean? And there will be people who will just discount it. They'll just be like, why would you do that? Like today, like I know a dude who made his own knife. I personally think it's really cool. There are some other people I know who don't give a shit that he made his own knife. He still has it. He still uses it all the time. It's not the best tool. He could have bought one that's way better, but it's one that he made. It's special to him. It's special to me because I know him and I appreciate that he made it. If he were to sell that knife, I might consider buying it because I would know who made it. I would know the level of craftsmanship that went into it. You know, would I actually buy it? I don't know. I have some weird colored titanium knives here that already serve the utility to me, so I'm not sure. I mean, for the right price, I imagine I would I would probably get it. I imagine there would be some price that would be like too low for me to want to get it, where I just wouldn't appreciate it because such a low price was on it, if that makes sense. I think it could flip the other way is what I'm saying. I'm not sure exactly for that particular item if it, I mean, it's pretty useful. I don't know. I have to think about this more. Discordia. Let me finish my video, Mac. I'm going to post this on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to skip to playing the video because Mac just showed up and he doesn't know what's going on. This is the last couple minutes of The AI Revolution is Rotten to the Core by Jimmy McGee.
And a strike for better contracts is also a statement of values. The AI revolution we're getting now is the one that gamifies life. It's a way to enact totally rigid systems with a bunch of esoteric rules that doles out rewards and punishments from the ether. It's arbitrary, and it doesn't afford us any unstructured time or bad behavior. Its world is one where you're bound by a million invisible contracts that are constantly rewriting themselves, pulling you to and fro unconsciously or with explicit threats. And these contracts are driven by the same market logic that puked pregnant Elsa Spider-Man videos into our collective psyche. But as always, things don't have to be this way. There's a time for games and a time for life. OpenAI isn't going to draw that line, so it falls to us.
Okay, whatever he says, I'm just going to suppose that video is done. I'm going to end the stream here, upload this shit to YouTube, and then probably jump on the Discord with Mac and, I don't know, talk about some of the stuff that was discussed, even though I don't think he actually saw the video. All right, I'm going to end the stream, upload, restart it. Also, that video was The AI Revolution is Rotten to the Core by Jimmy McGee. I'll try to put a link to it when I do the video.